Good morning. Happy Saturday. We're wrapping up the week of our self care for the holiday series um, with the amazing Cecile Edwards. Today we're talking about the mommies. We're giving y'all some love and hopefully some great self care tips. Have y'all been doing it this year in 2020? Grand Rising 92 Miracles. Good morning. Saturday, everyone. I hope y'all are feeling well.
Hey,
Hey, good morning, sis.
good morning. Good
How
morning.
are you?
I am doing very well. Let me turn up my lights here because I feel like it's all not bright enough. So,
All the
happy
time for me. I'm just
Saturday.
like, why am I in the dark? Like,
I do it all the time. When I used to work in the office, my boss would come in and be like, "Why are you in the dark?" Listen, good things come out of the dark.
oh,
So,
you better preach this morning. You better preach on a Saturday morning.
I'm incubating. That's what I'm doing. So, but yes, so it's so great to be here. Happy Saturday, everybody.
You know, this topic is so timely right
Yeah.
now, Cecile. I mean, I've just been giving so much love to all the moms in 2020 because I am not a mother myself. I feel vicariously for you all because it's a lot. I mean, it was already a lot
Right.
pre-COVID.
Right. Right.
I don't even know how, like, I feel like moms are walking
I'm
miracles at this point.
I'm glad that you brought that up because, it's the educator in me. I define everything, right? So y'all gonna have to walk with me through these definitions. As I was thinking about this conversation, I was like, pandemic doesn't mean that there's a physical disease, right? The definition of pandemic is just that there's something that is happening all over the world, all over the country. It spans a large space
Right.
or area. And so when you think about that in terms of motherhood and what is happening before this physical disease started to occur, the pandemic was lack of enough rest. The pandemic was not
Ooh.
having a community. The pandemic was, the inability for mothers to get the amount of time off or the nurturing from their
Oh,
workspaces that they
that's
needed in order to really balance this, do this quote unquote work-life balance. I don't even believe in all that, but that's just
can we put a pin in that? I feel like that's a whole put a pin in it.
so those were the pandemic. The fact that,
That's good.
it's difficult for people to get health care, which is crazy to me, and I'm one of those people. So I know from personal experience, I'm a business owner, I work for myself. And so the
Yes.
jugulation of getting
Yes.
affordable health care.
Absolutely. That's why I continue to work, and that's why I continue working 9 to 5 because I'm just like healthcare benefits. I mean, not one of the only reasons. I just like having, you like having the multiple streams of income. But that's one thing I do consider going full time. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs out here, especially Black women, right? Like we're kind of like we're on that stream, right? It's so many more Black women and female entrepreneurs out here. Is that we do consider health insurance, especially when you have a family.
Especially when you have a family, because I can tell you I had a personal emergency come up with my daughter. She had a kidney infection, come to find out, and we had to go to the hospital. And now I'm over here, talking, and I'm very confident that I'll get, the health insurance that I need. I'm not even, but it made me think about, because I'm typically a very holistic person, and I typically do things, but you still do need health insurance in case of these kinds of things. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? And so all of these things are considerations, and everyone is in a different grade of what they're going through, right? So some people, are having a terrible time with school. I can be honest that I'm not having a terrible time with school. I'm doing fine, right? My daughter is doing great with that. I'm actually, one of the things that I do is support families with their homeschooling, right? And so, um, you know, but it makes us realize now that we need to get involved in what's going on in schools more, I feel like, right? And so
Absolutely.
part of this conversation for me is not just, okay, yes, we're going through certain things and we have tips and tools where we can take care of ourselves. You have to absolutely care for yourself. I don't care what's going on, even if there's nothing going on. Okay, you take care of yourself. But this is also, I feel like a way to consider the vision for the future, right? How
Mm.
are we going to start to do things differently? How are we going to love on our families more? How are we going to ask to be loved on more by our families instead of feeling like we have to do all of these things? How are we going to create communities of mommies that are helping each other? And there's plenty of collectives going on these days, which I'm so proud of and just loving seeing that people are getting back to this way of being, because it was
Yes.
this way before, it was this way before, and it is in some places still. And so I think that that's part of the quote unquote self-care tip in my mind, is thinking about how, yes, certain things may not be working, but how can we ensure that they're more efficient once we are on the other side? Because that is the other side. Nothing is going to go back to normal.
Thank you. Thank you for that
The
point.
other side, the other side is what you are creating. Like, that's why I said the dark is a great place. This chaos is a great place because now you can create what you want. So what do you want? Okay. That's a journal question for you for today. If you journal, even if you don't, think about it in your mind, whatever. Envision it in your mind's eye, however that works for you.
Yes.
Okay.
What do you want? Yeah, I think
What do
that's a
you
great prompt for, especially as we move out of this year, right? And
want?
moving into this new decade, right? Everyone's like, I had the 2020 hopes and the 2020 vibes, but 2020 was kind of the reset button. Like, this was the time to really clear, because we're kind of going into a new world order, right? Consciousness is being heightened. We have this, when there is more feminine energy
Mm-hmm.
moving, and we're leaning into that more. So I think that's a great journal prompt. What is it that you want? Because a lot of times I find that people can't really answer that question to
I've been
begin
there.
with. So yeah,
Mhm.
me too.
I've been
And
there
or
where it's
thought
like,
that I wanted something that I really didn't. Right? It wasn't really me telling me that I wanted it. It was a story in my head, a voice in my ear saying I needed
story you
this.
telling yourself. Yes, Brene Brown, she said that. The story, what story are you telling yourself? I love you for
That's my
Brene.
girl.
But
Just a
but
couple of comments before we move on. I just want to
yeah.
make sure. Trap Unicorn, this pandemic has given me the time I needed and fought so hard for with my children. Absolutely. It has been a blessing in disguise. Perfect mistakes. I think we're going to be more aware of taking care of our elders in this country. Absolutely. That's the village, right? Yeah, and that's a question. She's Royal Gems. That's a question I ask often. What do you want? Absolutely. I think we should ask that on a daily basis. That should just be part of our spiritual practice. What is it that we
Absolutely.
want? Yeah.
Absolutely. How do we want our day to go? When I started to do stuff like that, two things that I've done. First of all, let me back up and introduce myself. I
I
just
know,
figured
because
out
we
like,
just went
hey,
all in, and it was in my head. I was just like, please reintroduce yourself, Camille.
this is hilarious, but this is Cecile.
I mean,
All right,
Cecile,
so
look,
it's okay. I get called Cecile, Cecilia, Camille. I don't know.
same
Listen,
here.
it is what it is.
Kathleen, Catherine, Kat, all of it.
I'm probably all of those people. Who knows? So So I am Cecile, and I am the CEO, creative director of Evolution Solutions. And Evolution Solutions is just what it is. It's about evolution solutions, right? Holistic ways to evolve yourself. And holistic mind means mind, spirit for me, right? And so I have two different businesses, one that serves mothers in helping them to achieve greater self-care and mindfulness in their parenting practices, self-care practices. And the other part of it is evolving education, where currently I'm doing classes on Black history and shining a light
Oh,
on
nice.
Black history through a particular lens so that we can uh, find blueprints for generational development and advancement. Because history is such that was my major in college, and I absolutely love history. Like,
Me
it's
too.
my thing. And I said, you know what, let me do these classes. And then I forgot about it. And then a friend of mine was like, can you teach my children some stuff? And I was like, oh, you know what? Let me get on it. So I
There
just
you go.
started doing that. Just started doing that. So I'm a person with many hats, but I do part of 2020 for me has been sort of consolidating and really aligning myself with what is actually best for me. Because oftentimes you can do many things, but the alignment, the divine alignment that is for you is what is going to really keep you fueled and keep you going and keep you moving. And so that's a little bit of what Mommy Evolve does. An Evolution Solution does. So,
Awesome.
and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask below.
Yes.
Yes. So I don't want to bulldoze the whole conversation. So do you have any questions?
This is your space, you know. Part of this, so let me tell you how this evolves, Cecile. So I was just like, the holiday, I struggle with the holidays. And this season is really counterintuitive to what I feel and lean towards. Like, to me, this is a season that you really go within. You begin to slow down, to reset. But, you know, the culture of this season is just so domineering that you just feel that pressure to, you know, shop and, you know, interact, and the lights and the tree and, you know, and all of that, as well as this is a season of loss for me. And, you know, and then family dynamic, all of that stuff. So it just brings up so much stuff. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. So I just really wanted to create a safe space in these talks, just to normalize that experience for folks so they don't feel so isolated in their experience. Because I feel like a lot of times we're just having to, especially as mothers, you feel like you have to put on that mask and go through, especially to, you know, be there and make sure your kids have a great Christmas, right? That pressure of, I have to make sure that everything is great for them, that is just right. Because I feel like there's that part of us, right, and that part of our childhood story that didn't receive, right, that insufficiency. And so now you're trying to overcompensate with your kids and put all of this unneeded pressure on yourself. So I say all that to say is that I am one that clearly usually does not have a format. As you see, I didn't even give you any questions. I just like the conversation. So whatever you have to share with the people, I'll interject as I will, but this is your lane. This is your space. So please connect. Everyone that's on, feel free to drop your questions in the comments. Again, we're engaging. This is just us. This is safe space. We're keeping it real today.
You know, there's a couple of things that you said that I'm about to touch on. First, I'm a December baby. So I was born December 29th. So in between Christmas and the New Year, you know, my birthday was often kind of like, all right, whatever.
You want Christmas gifts or birthday gifts? Which one?
In the midst of, you know, having several other siblings and all of that, right? So I have a lot of siblings. So I have overcompensated during my birthday month a lot. So I celebrate, first of all month, period.
I love it.
Okay. And, you know, I had this conversation with my followers, you know, and mommy friends, I call them, these past few weeks. And I was like, do you all feel pressure, you know, during the holidays to like do things for your children and things like that? And I got some interesting responses. A lot of moms said, no, they don't. Some said, yeah, you feel pressure because, you know, you want to give them things that you didn't get. And, you know, you want to keep certain things. You don't want them to feel like there's some deprivation going on, et cetera, et cetera. One of my friends, a good friend of mine, she was like, you know what? Usually I do, but this year I told my daughter, there is a pandemic. Everything is not about you. I said, I know that's right.
I love it. Those are great life lessons right there. Everything is not about you. Look.
It is a great life lesson. So I was so glad that she interjected that in the conversation, because as you said, we need to see all of those responses because it empowers us to know that we have options, right? To know that we can do something else, to know that, you know, you're not the only one that feels this way or that way about doing this or not doing this. And it is okay.
Yes.
Furthermore, when you look at this, so I asked my daughter what she wanted. You know, they be having lists that you be like,
where did this come from?
Did I just magically turn into Oprah? What or did my, you know, the things that I've talked about all this time just magically just it goes away during this time of year or what? Like, cause
let them create. Just let them get that creative expression out on paper.
It is
God
what
bless
it is.
them.
Okay, hallelujah. So I'm saying all that to say that no, you don't have to do all of that. You know, you don't have to feel like you have to run around. In fact, the rituals that you do may be more powerful than an actual gift, right? So what are some of the rituals? I find, you know, decorating the house to be a great thing, right? There's a symbolism to it, the lights, It's the ancient symbolism of the, the coming of the light to back to the earth and all of that. So that's great. But you can do whatever you want. So I think that it's a great space for you to create, as you just said, rituals that you can do with your family. Are you going to make something? Are you cooking something particular specific so that you add to your family recipes? Are you playing family games together? Find ways to connect that doesn't have anything to do, because that's a part of it too. When you look at other religions, Hanukkah, and the other religions going that are around, or the other celebrations around it, a lot of those are about family and connecting, right?
Yes.
Because even though you want that space to be by yourself, you really don't process yourself unless you're around other people. Like what you've processed while you're by yourself, you process with other people too. So it's the community care and the individual care. And so, but you want to make that meaningful. I know a lot of people struggle with going around their family. I guess this year they don't have to, right? They struggle with going around their families that they find to be annoying, or they don't have good relationships with, and all of those things. So if you have that situation, then it's a blessing this year. So
it really is. You got to get out a free card this year. It's just get out a Joe free card this year. Real easy.
And you have the opportunity to build a ritual with your friends, with those family members that you get along with. You know what I'm saying? And so that's another way to consider the conversation. What can you do? We get stuck sometimes in what isn't, but what is. What can we do? So for me this year, instead of, we decorated a little bit. My daughter didn't really want to decorate, but we decorated a little bit. I started to implement, having family come over to play games, a small group, you know what I'm saying? Come over and play games, just so that we find ways to connect, making sure that we talk on the phone. I'm on so many text threads where, to send funny jokes and talk about different things there. But so the question for me is, how can you connect in ways that isn't going to put you in a financial rut, isn't going to make you feel like you're emotionally and spiritually drained? So that would be the question that I would ask myself.
You're giving some good prompts today. You're giving some good journal prompts today. I'm loving it. Because I think that I also think that the energy here, like, I always tell my clients that we are always in the act of creating.
Always.
We are creative beings. Whether you're aware of it or not, you are consistently creating each and every day. And so now it's just really time to tap into that. 2020 was a reset. So yes, I agree. There's no going back, to normal. These people, first of all, why would you even want to go back to normal? It was unsustainable.
That normal was crazy. Okay.
It was so unsustainable. Like, and people felt that shift. I mean, the planet felt the shift. How many times did we see, like, we went outside and you just kind of saw, like, things start growing again, and the air quality even seemed a little better, a little fresher.
People are happier.
This is the time.
In general, I feel like people are more like relaxed because they're able to be home. Yes, there's certain things, but in general, it's like, I can be home. I can actually see my children or my spouse or whoever, see myself.
Exactly. I can actually look at myself and because I don't even look at myself like, girl, when did you put on all that weight? When did that happen? Because you're constantly on the go, when you're just like constantly moving. You don't even get a chance to look at yourself in the mirror and just take a little self-inventory. Yeah. But this was a great time, and I'm just telling people, like, own that power you have now to create the life you want, not the one you're having to consistently react to. So how can you be more proactive in really putting things in place that feed you, that nurture you? Right? Instead of just continuing to respond to, like, just a consistent, to-do list and this routine. And so I think it's a great time, especially for moms, to put that energy out there so they can think bigger. Think about how to advocate for. Hey, Cecile, your audio changed.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Yeah, you feel a little far away. You sound far away.
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit better, but whatever you did, it changed a little bit. You were great before, and now it's...
How's that?
That's better.
Okay. Somebody was calling me. That's fine.
Gotcha. Thank you for the reminder. Let me actually turn mine off.
Yeah, I should have. That's a good point. I don't know why I never
Yeah.
remembered to do that. Um, but yeah, I think that, for moms, let's, just being at home and depending on the age of your children, obviously there's, a difference in the balance that you have to strike, right? So if you have young ones, let's say, early childhood, that's from, newborn to grade 3, then that's, keeping them quote unquote busy can be quite a challenge, right? Because if you're working and you're trying to do XYZ, and maybe you don't have the ability to, hire help or do any of those things, I say that your job is just going to have to deal with the fact that you have to balance those things, right? That's what I say.
Right.
And
Right.
and and that's just the bottom line. You if you have a spouse, you and your spouse have to know that there's going to be some, push and pull of 25, 75, 50, 50, 75, 25, whatever the case may be. But just know that whatever it is, give your children some. I'm not an advocate of television and using media. But if that's what you have to do, don't feel guilty about it. Put on some PBS, put on some Reading Rainbow. You know that they get
Yes.
some good stuff. There's great games that they can play, little games that they can fidget with and play with. Oftentimes you just need a pot and a pan, really, and some things for them to scratch on or something that won't make too much noise. But I think that, just keeping yourself very centered in it, just knowing that it's just a part of what it is, and so that you don't get yourself riled up, because what ends up happening if you get upset, if you get overwhelmed and things like that, or you feel it extends into a further emotional battle, then you feel drained, right? You start to drain yourself, and then you don't have the mental capacity and the energy to do certain things. And so I think that there's something to be said about just being mindful that this is just a moment of this, and it also frees up the energy for you to be able to think of what it is that you can do with the child in that moment, but if you get frustrated, then that kind of pulls you down. It says, what do you suggest for single mothers that don't have full-time support to help them push through?
That's a great
Definitely,
question.
it's an excellent question. And I always say, your soul and your spirit knows what it is you need more of, right? And so if you feel like you need to spend more time by yourself in the morning, I don't know how old your children are, but I like to get up, even to this day. This is something that I trained myself to do when my daughter was younger, and I am also a single parent. Um, One of the things that I trained myself to do is to get up a little bit earlier to actually do things. So I would wake up early before, but I would just be laying in the bed. Now I take that time to, write, journal. I do morning pages, um, or I read, some kind of spiritual text, because those things are filling me up, right? It's giving me more energy. Everything is about energy, filling up your energy. And same thing, you can teach your children to do it depending on how old they are as well. Honestly, I always advocate for that. Whatever it is that you're learning to do, teach your children the same thing, if they're at an age that they can learn it. What are you doing for yourself during the day? Are you eating well? Making sure that you have that energy, right?
Right.
What is your mindset? How when you feel yourself going into a spiral? I literally just had this this happen to me, or I was going to a spiral where I was ready to cuss everything out, and I was like, all right, let me stop.
Let's take a pause. Let's
I
take
don't
a
have
pause and
time
go
for
with
that
this.
energy.
Why am I trying to cuss everybody out today? Sometimes you do have to
Gotta
just
pull
take the
yourself back,
pause. Yeah, just
right? Pull
what's really
yourself
going
back,
on here?
right?
And is that stuff yours? I'm consistently asking too. It is so important to do a self inventory because we are all energetic beings, right? We're all vibing off each other. So
Right.
just be aware of what you're carrying and seeing if that belongs to you. Is that your bag, or have you picked up somebody else's luggage? That's all I want to say on that.
No,
Sometimes that
that's
is not
very
your stuff
important.
you're responding to.
That's very important. And the question that I have for the single mothers as well is, what's your definition of single mother?
Mm,
Because I used to, call myself a single mother, but the truth of the matter is that, and I do realize that there are people who just simply don't have a support system for whatever reason. But I had to ask myself that question because I had access to people, but I didn't feel comfortable asking them for help. I didn't feel like, um, that they would, want to help me. You know, I felt like I had to do everything on my own. You know, I felt like if I asked them, they would see me as weak.
Mm.
So the question that I have for you, and the question that you can ask yourself is, how do I define single motherhood? And what am I doing? What actions, what am I doing with that definition? How am I playing that definition out in my life? Right? So that's the question that I would ask. Like,
That's a good
sincerely ask
question.
yourself that, because I know it's a word that we hear all the time, you know, a phrase that we hear, and we attach certain things to it. And so we may also act in a certain way based on what we think. So I would ask you that question.
Mm.
Um,
That's
but
that's really good.
you know, that is yeah, it depends on what
Hmm.
you need. What do you feel like you need? I'm a huge fan of meditation. Okay. And YouTube, you know, is a powerful place to go.
Yes.
And I'm gonna tell you, you do not have to be perfect at meditation. The first time I did it, I kid you not, I was probably 30 seconds in. I was like, all right, I'm done. Now I can sit for so long because I kept at
Yes.
practice. See, this is the
Yes.
thing about self-care. You know, it's a buzzword again. But what I've always said is that self-care is about the mental, emotional, spiritual work that you do on yourself. That's what it is. So you have to be loving of yourself enough to know that whatever you're doing is feeding into whatever it is that you want for your future. So it is worthy to take the time to meditate. It is worthy to take the time to go sit in your bathtub. It is worthy to take the time. You don't know what kind of inspirations you'll get from that. You don't know what kind of, you know, new ideas you'll get from that. You don't know how your energy is going to elevate to attract those people into your life that you need to help to support you, and how you're going to think to support the people in your life, because I am a proponent of that too.
Yes.
Okay. And so I said, because I know for a fact, for me, when I was, you know, defining single motherhood in a certain way, I didn't think that I could show up for my friendships in a certain way.
Oh
So I have to be
wow.
very mindful that just because I feel like I don't quote unquote have XYZ, it's an exchange. You know, you have to build the community, and so there is a give and a get, not a tit for tat type give and get, but the exchange of energy, right,
Yes.
between people. And so that's something to consider as well. Okay, so I hope that was useful.
That was very. I'm processing that because I feel like please go back and watch this because you just said a lot. You just said a lot, and I think people really needed some time to sit with that and process that because I often hear because I grew up um, I'm a child of divorce, but I never considered either one of my parents single parents. Like, you know, it's like because
Mm.
they were both involved in my life, we just didn't live in the same household.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear people say single parent, because to me, when you're a single parent, like you are the only parent,
Right.
right? But then, like, I hear people still refer to themselves single parents, even when the father is involved or mother is involved, or however that dynamic is, because we have so many different types of families now too. And I think that's another thing that isn't really addressed because we're just really into this hetero structure
Right.
of what
Right.
that is too. But it's all different frames of what family is. But when you have two people who are involved, or when you have extended family involved, right? When you have grandparents, I never really considered that a single parent. But I mean, that was just me. So I'm so glad that you said that and you spoke to that, because you do have a support, and I think that labeling makes you feel a bit isolated
Yes.
and less connected, as you were saying. Because even speaking that, like, there's life and death in the power of our tongue. We always go back to Bible. Bible's always in me. But even speaking that I'm a single mother, what energy are you pouring out even in those words?
Right.
Like, what
Right.
is the frame? So I think it's a great question to ask. Like, what is your definition? What does it mean to you to be a single parent?
Right.
And if that doesn't really fit for you, can you redefine that? Can you reframe that? I think
Right.
that's
Yeah.
you
Because
deep
even at some
still.
point I started to, and there's a question down here, so I'm just going to say this
Yeah.
real quick. Um, I started to define it at some point as, and this is showing you the evolution, right? So this is, again, giving permission that you may have one idea today. It is absolutely a prerogative to change your mind, right?
Yes.
To evolve up. So then I started to define it personally as like financially single, because that's what a lot of people will, try to define it as well. But I had to even rebuke that, right? Because I was like, you know what? There ain't just one income around here. I got many incomes.
I know that's right.
And I have the places where gifts can come from and all kinds of blessings.
That's
Okay.
right.
So I'm not limiting myself in
I
no
love that.
definition.
Oh,
So
that's
this
so
is the
good.
time. Pull those labels off. So
Yes.
see this.
Yes.
Another question. What do you recommend for us moms who work outside of the home? I'm not able to enjoy the pause that the pandemic caused for most, and I'm running on empty. Oh,
Yes.
you're a nurse as well. I see. I was just about to say, what do you do? And first of all, thank you for your service.
Please, thank you so much.
My sister's a nurse as well, and it's nurses, doctors, all of the people who are out there emotionally, because it's not just, you go into a job. You have to deal with the emotions. You have to deal with the constant
Yes.
barrages. You have to constantly deal with that. So thank you so much
Yes, and the
for,
vicarious trauma. Thank you so,
yes,
yes.
there's
Yes.
so much. I think honestly, and this may be, this may or may not resonate with you, but I think this is a great time to advocate for the reality that nurses, there needs to be a shift in that community. Um, for now, I know that it's hard for you all to get time off, but I would advocate for, even at work, having significant breaks and having certain things in your breaks. So, for example, asking your manager for, and this is for at work. So asking your manager for there to be some kind of healthy lunch, asking your manager that I don't know, a massage therapist comes in and, gives you all 15-minute massages. I would ask for these things. I would really ask for these things because, you all are putting in a lot of work. And then when you get home, you work 12-hour shifts, you get home, you're tired, you want to sleep. You're not necessarily thinking about, I would be thinking about the perks that the job can give me. Can you all have a meal delivery thing sent to my house so that I don't have to go home and think about grocery shopping and cooking? This is just expanding the mindset. This is the way that I think personally. I feel like these are corporations. They have the money. Not only do they have the money, they have the connections. They're the
Yes, they do.
healthcare system, right?
Yes, they do.
Y'all got some massage therapists and some reflexologists
They
or
got it. And some
some therapists.
acupuncturists, and yes, they as an employee of the healthcare system for over 10 years, they got a lot. They just don't want to give it out. I always say ask.
This is the time to advocate for all of that.
Yes, it is.
Not just for you, but if you can get it for your family too, get it for your family too.
Yeah. And don't forget your employee assistance programs, the EAP programs too, because you get a lot of resources from them as well. And I know oftentimes people forget about that benefit in the workplace, but they're there to support you. So in using that EAP, that's the buzzword that your manager needs to hear. It's
There you
EAP,
go.
because that's where all those benefits come from, because they usually do provide massage therapists and emotional support. They usually have therapists available. So just really activate those resources that are available to you. And I always tell people, because most of the time the first thing is, my job not going to do that. However, it's your job to ask. It is your job to express that. What they do with it, that's their business. But if you never give voice and advocate for yourself and your needs, that's on you. So all you can do is ask, because you never
And
know.
get your coworkers in on it.
Yeah.
Like, listen, we are tired. We're burnt out. We cannot continue like this.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wouldn't want a nurse that was burnt out. If I'm in the hospital, I don't want no burnt out nurse. I want to make sure that nurse is being taken care of.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And so it's both ends of that. And in terms of your children, I don't know what your schedule is, because again, your schedule can be crazy. I would say when you are at home, rest in the bed with your children. You know, just be like, look, it's time for us to rest. We recharging energy together. We
I love it.
superheroes. We recharging
Yeah.
energy together. We can just rest on. Okay.
I love
Think of
that.
something, fun to do, making something healthy, healthy food. I'm all for the healthy foods. I know people like to go to the sugar this time of year, but this is actually a time of year where we should not be going to the sugar because
It's
it kind of
hard.
weighs us down. Yeah. Making sure that you stay in contact with your children while you're at work as much as you can. It can be anything as little as playing a game together. I know these phones have like the coordination where you can play games together, like Scrabble or whatever, playing those games together. Whoever it is that is with your children, making sure that you're having, conversation with them about what is going on with them so that there is that presence still. In the conversation with you and what it is that you can do even though you may not be at home. I remember this great story that Lisa Nichols told about when she was like her business was taking off and her son was missing her and all of that, and she just decided that even though she had to go, she implemented all of these things in place to make sure that her son, even though she wasn't physically there, it was like she was there. So it was like, emailing, video calling, implementing these small things to ensure that he didn't feel this missing of her presence so much. And I don't know if how many children you have or what the dynamic is, but I would say the more that you rest, honestly, the better your responses, your answers will be, and what would be good for you, and implement them. Okay,
That's
because
good.
it's
Yeah.
it's such a personal thing to know how your life really flows. But rest is the one thing that I always tell people to do. Get some sleep.
Get some sleep.
Get some sleep.
Get some
Okay. I
sleep.
used
It's a
to
great
not be able
ministry.
to. Okay. It
Yeah.
is absolutely. And because I know that when I wasn't sleeping well, it was terrible. Everything was so terrible. Like I couldn't think straight. I didn't know what was going on, making bad decisions. It was just bad attitude, terrible.
Affects your
And yes,
mood. Yes.
it's just bad. Like we need some sleep, sister. So I started to, of course, initially I got a prescription, and I took it one time. I was like, oh, hell no. And then I started looking up herbal remedies for it. And so now, I take lemon balm is one of my things, and I make sure I get enough magnesium in my diet. So three
Three
kids, 15,
kids,
11,
15
6.
lives.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, distance learning is a struggle while I'm at work. Is someone
Yeah.
looking at this? Is so like this is a lot of questions, but I'm pretty sure other people are dealing with it.
Hmm.
Is someone with them while you're at work, or is the 15-year-old kind of like the person in the home? Because that makes a difference too.
Yes, it does.
Um,
And that's a lot. That's a lot to manage.
it is a lot. It is a lot because you have to pay attention again. Having
Hmm.
nurses split. Wasn't there a program, I may be wrong, where there was like for essential workers, there was like childcare,
Yes.
uh, it was like a government program. It was a part of the
There was. It was part of that
stimulus
first
package.
stimulus package
Hmm.
early in the year. I don't know if that's expired because I feel like some of those programs expired around the summertime. But there
Mm,
was a program. I think they were providing some sort of subsidies for
mm,
daycare support.
hmm.
But yeah, I mean, and and that's the missing piece, right? Is that we really didn't have a government that responded to the needs appropriately. So I just want to say that, and we're not going to even go down that road today. But just know that you are sufficient. Like some good enough. We strive for good enough. Perfect
Right,
does not exist.
right.
And yeah, my mother by force, so she is sort of disconnected.
I know that
Okay.
feeling too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it expired. That's what I thought.
Oh, okay. It
Yeah.
expired. I mean, all is not lost. Thankfully, you do have your mother there, irrespective of her disconnect, right? Irrespective of that, she is there for the health and safety of the children. And I don't believe, as you said, that everything needs to be perfect, right? Again, active pandemic, mama's a nurse, and most child care is,
Yes, they are.
yeah,
Yes, they
yeah,
are. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They are.
unfortunately, which is something that we need to, anyway.
Another, yeah, again, another topic
Another topic. I I I don't want to be, what's the word? I forgot what that word is. Like trying to spiritually bypass what's going on
Yes,
with your
yes,
situation, because it is a
yes.
tough situation. One of the practices that I has really helped to keep me centered is having a gratitude practice. And the most difficult thing to do in that gratitude practice was to be grateful for the things that I had fear of, serious fears of, and for people that were like hard to have gratitude about something about their actions, right? However, so this, what would this look like for you? As you said, you appreciate your mother, you know, being in gratitude that even though she may be a little bit disconnected, you don't even have to say all that, that your children get the opportunity to spend more time with their grandmother, right? That's something to be grateful for in the situation. Gratitude for the fact that even though the education may not be the what we would like it to be, there is still some education happening, so that they have the opportunity to see how they can, direct themselves in their education, right? And they are having, while they're in this, they have a idea and understanding. And what I tell children, told the young people that I've been teaching, is that we are actively in creating history. So in 5 years, you're going to see all of this in the history book,
Yes, you will.
right?
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
So, these are conversations that you can have. Like your 15-year-old and I think you said 11-year-old can
And 6.
conceptualize these
Yeah.
kinds of
Yeah.
conversations. When you are with your children, don't try to do anything too heavy. Paint, draw, run around, do creative projects. All right? Those are things that fill you up energetically and will create a bond between you all, including your mom too, by the way. She should do it too. So think of different creative crafts, different things like that you can do that are just, it could just be things in your house that you are old things that you cut up, make a quilt. I don't know, something like that. Just something to where you're just moving your hand and you're just flowing, as opposed to thinking about structure, structure,
Yes.
structure. You have to release that. This is what I call the play, right? You have to do some play
Yes.
center things. Maybe go to one of these. I mean, if it's open in your city, wherever you live, go to one of these bouncy house places and go jump around. I'm telling you, I'm gonna open one of those for adults. I'm telling
Please
you,
do.
just straight up adults to go run around and play, because we need that.
Adults need to play. And they do have like the trampoline centers. I don't know if they're open. I'm hoping they're not, because I feel like that's just the
I don't
incubus
know.
of
These
COVID.
days, I
But
don't know what's going on.
who knows at this point? But even I tried to go to the trampoline place, but and adults can go, but it's still a lot of kids, and you kind of just like I'm really
Trampling
not
over the
trying to.
babies. We don't want
Yeah,
to trample the babies.
yeah. I was like, but adults need spaces to play. We take life so seriously. We were never meant to take life this seriously. I mean, it's supposed to be light.
Right.
It's supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be able. That's our heart. That's coming from our heart center. The heart is meant to be light and
Mm-hmm.
playful and
Mm-hmm.
loving and kind. And we put
Mm-hmm.
so much we
Heaviness. Yeah.
hold, yes, in our heart center.
Yeah.
And that's why we have so much heart disease, especially amongst Black women,
You said
right?
it.
Because it manifests. If you continue to hold that energy in your heart center, it's going to physically manifest into some.
Especially Black women, because
Yes,
we have so much
yes.
pressure. Let me even go there. We have so much pressure to have it together, whatever that's supposed to be. I don't even know what that's supposed to be. What
Because
is
we
that
supposed to be the
supposed to be?
strong Black woman. The strong Black woman is supposed to hold it down. I was like, can we? I didn't know I got
Release
time
that
for that.
this year. Okay,
Please, thank
release
you.
that on 12/21, whatever. Release
12,
it.
12. This is a great day. It's 12, 12,
12 to,
20.
yes,
All these
it is.
two, right? Today is a great, on 12, 12, y'all, go ahead and release that whole myth of being a strong Black woman. And I have to have it all together, and I got to hold it down, and I don't have time to be weak, and I just got to keep it moving. And can we please, it's because you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to, whatever strong means, please define that, as you have gave some great prompts, Cecile.
Mhm.
Also, what does it mean to be strong? Because being strong doesn't mean repressing your emotions.
Okay? That is not being strong.
That's not being
Okay?
strong.
That's being self-destructive. And I ain't self-destructive.
Thank you.
Okay? I am my first priority. Okay? And if I got to say, that's why I said, if I got to say something, I'm going to say it.
Thank you.
I may say it kind, but I'm going to say it. No, all of that stuff got to go, ladies.
Yes,
As a
I release
parent,
that. Yes.
as a parent, we are modeling to our children how to have a healthy mind, a healthy spirit. You know, continue to keep that playfulness in them. You know, keep that playfulness in them. Keep that, you know, lightness in their spirit. Allow them to. A lot of parents are going to unschooling, by the way.
Say more about that.
Unschooling is a process basically where the child is self-directed in their education. So they wake up one morning and they decide that they want to learn about samurais.
I
I don't
like
know why they
that. I
came.
like that. Like Montessori, right? That's kind of the Montessori concept.
And
Yeah.
Montessori can have a little structure, unstructured type thing. I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
Montessori personally.
Me too.
But yes, it's kind of like, you know, you're instead of you creating the curriculum, they are the curriculum. Their day-to-day activity is the curriculum, and then because you know what they need to learn, you are implementing different activity strategies, whatever, in order to get them to master that particular skill,
That's
right?
good.
But it's not going to be linear. See, in school, you know, you have this very linear thing. You have these lesson plans, and they got to do this, and if they don't do it now, then that means they ain't doing well. And blah, blah, blah. That's the difference, right? You're not doing all that in unschooling. You're taking note of the fact that they did some of this, and I do kind of like that with my with the child that I am schooling. It's a little bit difficult because it's not my child, so I have to, you know, take
Right.
note of things. But I am an educator by trade, so I do know how to do those things. But you know, for example, yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, Friday. Um, she started talking about she was going to give me half of her cookie, right? And so the day before, I remember I was like, oh, we were talking about halves because we were doing some kind of science experiment. So she took it and ran with it. And in her mind, she worked it out. You know what I'm saying? And it
I
became,
like that.
she took it in the way that she could take it in. That's a more effect. And when you think about education, that's how we learn anyway. Somebody could say something to you when you're
That's right.
15. When you're 25, you be like, oh, you know
That
what I'm saying? Like,
especially the parents, right? Your parents was giving you all of these nuggets. You're just like, I ain't think about what you're talking
exactly.
about right now. And then, you know, when you move into adulthood, it's like, oh,
That's what that is, right?
that's what that was about.
So giving them high quality interaction with lessons around life is basically what unschooling is,
I
right?
love that concept.
That's basically it. And I think that it's great and it's effective. You know, my daughter was homeschooled before. This pandemic was a blessing in terms of her not having to be in school. She was homeschooled before until fifth grade. She decided that she wanted to go to school to experience school. It was a disaster in my mind. So I'm so glad. And now she's able to see the difference, but she's
Yeah.
very self-directed, right? So she just picks up and learns stuff when she feels like learning it. She was learning how to do what do you call that? The Japanese cartoons that these children
Oh,
like these days.
anime?
Anime.
Yeah.
So she was learning how to draw anime and you know, he's like, oh, you should do your own comic book. You know, these are the kinds of things and unschooling
That's
you, you
I
know?
love that. I absolutely love
So
because it gets them back to the point of knowing what it is to be a creator, right? Because I feel like that energy gets stagnant, right?
yeah.
Because, and you know, it's funny that you mentioned this. Thank you so much because I had a teenage client this week, and you know, she was just like, I'm unmotivated. And the first thing that you know, intuitively I picked up because you're bored, right?
Right.
Because it's just like there's no outlet. Because typically they could go out, socialize, you know, kind of get that energy out, but they don't really have those outlets right now. And so
Mm-hmm.
just like all that creative energy gets stagnant. I'm just like, this is here's some homework. You
Right.
know, like
Right.
what is it? You're in high school now. What is it you want to begin to create for your life? You know,
Mm-hmm.
start imagining that. Write it
Mm-hmm.
down. You know, cut out some pictures. You know, whatever you need to do, get a Pinterest board or IG board, whatever you want to do, and start really visualizing that. Right? What is it? But that creative energy needs somewhere to go. And when you're just sitting, especially kids, I've been feeling for them. I know that parents get frustrated, but I've been telling the parents, I was like, can you imagine just sitting in front of a computer? I would act out. If you expect me to sit in front of a computer for hours on end and be connected,
right,
and focused and take in it was hard enough sitting in a classroom for that long. I feel like school is way too long. I feel like it's too long of a day for kids.
Don't get me started on that. You know, the day is long because of work schedules. It ain't long because they need to be. You need for the child, the age that I'm doing from early childhood, you probably need an hour of work. And it's not really work, it's play learning, what I call it. And then from that, above that, you probably need a good 2-3 hours of instruction.
About 4 hours. I mean, 4 hours, and that is the model in some countries. 4 hours. I think Finland. I remember watching I think it was a Michael Moore movie where they talked about, like, maybe in the 50s, 60s, America and Finland were pretty much par about, they pretty much just sucked. Their education system just sucked. Finland decided to do something about it. And they just created.
That's what people do when they want to actually fix stuff.
When they actually do something about it. And so actually they imported American teachers too. There are a lot of American teachers over in Finland. But 4-hour days, like 4 hours of instruction in a classroom. The rest is like this unschooling model you're talking about. That they go outside, they explore, find a bug, tell me about the bug. Let's do some art. But kids, if adults don't have that level of attention, because I know if you sit me in a meeting for an hour, I'm just like, okay.
I'm done. Okay, give me 10 minutes. I'll be like, right,
I was like, hey, this could have been an
and
email.
No, I don't have ADHD.
I don't. It's just, I'm bored. If I'm bored, that's how I put it. If I'm bored, parent, if you're bored sitting in a meeting, imagine your kids. How would you expect your kids to do something that you can't do?
Absolutely. And it's something that we have to unlearn. I like that point because we have to unlearn. Even myself as an educator, got a degree from a, classical university or whatever. I had to unlearn the way that I was taught. And I'm still in the process of unlearning it, especially since this is my first time doing such a young person. I'm elementary. So elementary is grade 3 and 4 and up. And so I've had to unlearn and learn how to play more. And it's been and I've said to the parents several times, like, she is teaching me how to be a better creative person, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because little kids will tell you when they're bored. They be like, look, I'm tired.
Next. And that's when they start throwing stuff. But then you get mad at them when they start acting out. I was like, they're acting out because they're bored. That's all I've been telling parents. I'm just like, they're acting out. They have these behaviors because they are also processing. This has been a complete shift in their routine as well. I feel like that was just an expectation. Expect your kids to act out. Expect them to have behaviors.
I agree. Yeah. And the remedy, do more creative projects.
Yeah. Have more fun with them.
Have more fun.
Yeah, that is it.
Sounds like
write that script, doctor. Write that script for the people.
Right. Paint. Go run around outside. Okay. Throw some stuff. Dance. Like, this is the prescription right there.
I love it. So, that's so good. Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything else? Because again, this is why I love doing this, because you just never know what's going to come out. So I'm so glad that we went down this road. For moms, I just really want them, and hopefully you can speak to this, Cecile. I just really want them to give themselves a break, like to give themselves a pass, to pat them on the back, to say, well done. Like, it's so much I'm doing, and I am so grateful just to be still waking up, and everyone's safe. Yes. And we're fed and we're good. But I just really would love for moms, particularly black moms, to really give themselves more credit. Yes. And like you said before, just the worthiness, to know that you are worthy and you deserve to be loved and cared for as you love and care for others.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. And again, with the gratitude practice, there is also that practice of celebrating, right? I'm telling you, if I wake up in the morning I used to be so hard on myself because you know that whole imposter syndrome. I call it
Yes.
mom-poster syndrome, by the way.
Oh, I like
I'm gonna
it.
have a whole thing, a whole class around that in 2021 at some point because I'm not pushing stuff no more in my life. But anyway,
I understand.
so celebrating every little thing. Ooh, I made breakfast today.
Hmm.
Yes, I did that. Ooh, I took a shower today. That's wonderful. Ooh, I got out of bed and gave the kids hugs and kisses and stuff. Ooh, that's wonderful. Ooh, I did that little part of that project. I did that. You have to celebrate everything that you do because we often walk through life and think that, we can only celebrate big stuff. Like,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? It's like, no, all that little stuff is what
Yeah.
got you to that big stuff.
The micro steps.
Okay?
Yep.
So celebrate everything. Celebrate what you do. If your child, celebrate your child and every little thing they do. They spent 5 minutes on the computer. That was good. You did good job.
Yep.
Make that a regular practice to keep the energy high in your home because again, this is another thing that the pandemic has shown us is that we are responsible for the energy in our home, right?
Hmm.
So, all that, focusing on what's going on outside sometimes is not conducive to again what we're trying to build inside of our homes. So give yourself, the pat on the back for the beautiful things that you are doing in your home. I don't care how small it is. I
Yes.
don't care how small it is.
Yep.
And yeah, just keeping up with the gratitude practice, continuing to think about those definitions, how you're defining things, releasing those labels. All of this is the right time for that. This is the right time for that. Writing down these things that you envision for your future. And don't think small, think big. It can be small, but think big about why not? You know? So
My
that's
therapist says we make a big deal out of negative is necessary to celebrate yourself. LOL.
exactly.
Yes, now is the perfect time.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Because
absolutely.
our brain is hardwired to go to the negative, right? It's kind of that, archaic part of us that we're still looking for the lion and the tiger and the bear.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
our brains are kind of functioned to look at the negative,
Hmm.
but your brain can also be rewired. And so
Right.
as Cecile talks
Thankfully.
about the gratitude practice, that begins to
Hmm.
rewire that you can look more at the positive and what's going on, that you can see that a little bit more clearly.
Right. And I'm
Yeah.
a herbal person, so adaptogens are very good for your body to relax your nerves so
Mm-hmm.
that you can even get into the posture of feeling like you're going to be, grateful and think about micro wins. And so, you can look up the term adaptogens and look at how you can use them. So lemon balm is one of them. I talked about that earlier. Um, and also I take different, I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you what I do. Okay. Um, but that helped me to keep my nerves, calm because I
Yes.
know that's something that's very huge for a lot of women. Our hormones can be kind of
Absolutely.
raging and such. So adaptogens are great. I also take cordyceps, different mushrooms. Lion's mane works really well for me. And just again, making sure that I keep that sugar on the low, because
Yes.
that sugar, it makes a difference for me. My nerves, I can't.
It's one hell of a drug. Sugar is one hell
It
of a drug, guys. It's like 2 seconds
is,
away from cocaine. But the
literally.
receptor, literally, the receptors for
Mhm.
your brain is sugar and cocaine. Those receptors are neck and neck. They're very close. Yeah.
Yeah. So just
Um,
be mindful of that.
Yeah, Vanessa says we are responsible for the energy in our own home. Starring, yes, stealing that. You're just going to borrow. This is all divine wisdom. You just borrowing it. That's it.
Right, exactly. It's something, the universe gave it to me. I'm glad to share it with you. You hear me? So, but yes, those are my advice. I have a gratitude meditation that you can download. It's free. bit.ly/gratitude 108. And it's a 108 gratitude affirmations of gratitude. So it's something that you can listen to. It's like 15 minutes in the morning, something that you'll listen to and can, get you
Oh,
in a certain
great.
posture in the morning. I'll put the link down here. But that's totally free. You just, get that, grab that
Great. Hey,
to
Cecile,
start
can
a
you
practice.
send that to me so I can add it when I post this? I'll add it
Hmm.
in the comments.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So that's something that, I will share with you all. And just, stay connected. I'm always sharing something, some stories or whatever. And of course, I love to hear your questions and your stories. But remember to keep it light, play, celebrate yourself, and stay up.
Yep, Renessa will pin the link for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And I was going to say, and when you're talking about herbal remedies, also check out the video from My Days of Running Together, y'all. But Urban Lifestyle, he also talked about some herbal remedies for women specifically,
Okay.
and also some remedies to help to decrease the anxiety. So you can also check out that video. He has some really good herbal remedies there as well.
Perfect. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much, Cecile. This
My
has been
pleasure.
amazing. I have learned so much today. I feel like we need to do a part 2, 3, 4. We
Yes.
may we may
And
want to
can.
collaborate on a series for
Hmm.
2021.
Yes. 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 I would love that. I would love that. Yes.
Oh yeah, because this extraordinary. And I just want to let you all know that when you're feeling alone or isolated, there's no need to, because Cecile, like many other of the folks that you've seen, are my IG family. It's just people. We're just connecting via IG.
Yes.
Social media can be a great thing, even though I was not a
Yes.
believer of that for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really wasn't mine, but
You got to
there
use
really
it
is this
the way you
community.
use it.
The
Yeah.
way you use it, it can really be a blessing, and it's really like this tribe is forming, and I'm just so blessed to have just connected with you
Me
in this
too.
seamless, organic way.
Yes.
Um,
That's what I'm
yeah,
saying. Nothing has to be forced.
it,
No forcing.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
No, fighting. We
No,
done with that in 20.
you don't
We
gotta
done with
push
that.
down the door. Just use
Yeah.
the key right
Yeah.
there.
We
Just
done with
open it.
that. We not doing that
Yeah.
no more, ladies, right?
Mm-mm,
Hmm.
mm-hmm. That's too much effort. And you
Right.
know what? I'm so glad you talked about that, because as we move into this feminine energy is all about receiving.
Yeah.
Like our natural state is receiving. I mean, we have a womb, which is a cup. It's just meant to be filled. So it's just how will you actively receive?
Right.
Because sometimes we're just so passive
Yes.
in that. So how can we actively get into this moment that you just expect to receive blessings and
Yeah.
support
You
and
and you guess what you
resources?
have to do for that? You have to relax. Okay. You have to relax and you have to play. You have to imagine.
Yes.
So I said, when you imagine great things.
Yeah, because that's all intuition. When you start to imagine, you're just activating your third eye chakra. You're activating your intuition. Y'all know I gotta talk about intuition. But no, thank you so much. I'm gonna post this right after. Cecile, thank you, and you can be found on Mommy Evolve on
Yes, at
Instagram. And do you have another Instagram page as well, or any other contact information?
I have one for my education, which is
Okay.
at Evolve Education Global. So you can do
Okay.
that one as well. And at
Okay.
Mommy Evolve on Facebook and on IG, both of those, and on YouTube. So those
Education
three
Global.
places. Same name,
Okay.
Evolve Education Globally and at Mommy Evolve. Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna add that one too. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thank you. You too.
And we'll
Happy
be in touch.
12/12.
Happy 12/12, everybody. Thanks for checking in. We'll see
See
you next
you.
time.
Bye.
Bye.